Hi, and welcome to OverHERD at Career Education. My name is Denny, and I work in the Office of Career Education. Today, we're going to be talking about a Plan B. That is, Plan B for career planning. Now, what is a Plan B? Why should you have one? And how do you go about making one? Well, as I tell my students all the time, I'm really glad you asked. So I'm going to go ahead and go into each one of those areas right now. But first, when we talk about a Plan B, we refer to a secondary plan should you not be able to reach the career goals set forth in your Plan A for some reason. Now, there could be a variety of reasons that would happen. Number one, a student could find himself in a situation where they can't perform satisfactorily in key classes for their intended major. An example that I've seen a lot is students want to go into either something in the medical field or something in science, and they can't get past like a biology or a chemistry class or something like that. Number two, the student has decided that the major does not fit them for some other reason. I've had students, for instance, this happened actually just this week. A student had originally decided they wanted something, they were thinking about money, and they wanted something very high paying. And I know I've talked about this previously, and I'm sure I will talk about it more in the future. But you don't want to pick a career based solely off of what you're going to earn. And sometimes a student may have some kind of an epiphany and decide that, you know what, money isn't everything, and I need to look at career options that are a better fit for me and ones that aren't just necessarily the most money that I can make. That's what happened to me. That's one reason I work in higher ed. So, number three, a student may enjoy the classes or the major, but has decided that the career prospects are not a match for them. This is kind of somewhat related to the last point, but sometimes a student will be enjoying the day in and day out going to class, but when they actually look at what the degree can do for them, what types of jobs they can get into, they find that it's not quite a match for what they want to do, or maybe the types of jobs aren't what they thought they'd be, or it doesn't interest them. So they decide they need to go back to the drawing board. And then number four, sometimes a student's dream job is a career I call a reaching for the stars type of career, something like being an actor, a musician, professional sports, something like that. Some type of career that no matter how much you spend it, no matter how talented you are in those areas I just mentioned, theater, acting, musicians, sports, and there's a number of others that go into that field. No matter how good you are in those areas, there is always an element of luck that's involved with making your big break in those areas. Try and convince me otherwise. I listen to Top 40 radio, and I personally know a handful of people who are more talented than the people I hear on Top 40 radio. So clearly there's not a direct correlation between talent and making it big. But then that's a discussion for another day, I suppose. Now, Plan B, is Plan B even a fitting name? Some research, I've read this in research, they feel that the term Plan B is pejorative or kind of puts down a secondary plan. I've also read in research they prefer terms like parallel plan and matters like that. Personally, I'm of the opinion that you can be too politically correct on that and you can water something down too much. So I don't see anything really wrong with calling something a Plan B. To clarify my previous statement, I think you can actually water something down so much that the meaning gets lost. And personally, I don't necessarily think Plan B is necessarily an insult or a put down when I'm asking students, have you thought of a Plan B? I don't feel like that's necessarily a slap in the face to them or anything anything like that. Now, another article that I had read in preparation for this podcast used the term backup plan, and again, I think it boils down to kind of the wording that you prefer, but whatever term you like, whether you like parallel plan, Plan B, backup plan, whatever you want to call it, and send me an email if you want to discuss that further. I think that it's really important to have one, not just here and now, but also as you enter your career field, or even if not into your career field, even as you graduate college. As you leave academia and head toward the working world, there might be some situations you find yourself in, such as you decide that you've grown tired of working your Plan A, and obviously, hopefully, this is a ways after graduation. Hopefully this isn't 6 months or a year after you graduate. Hopefully you make it a number of years in the career field which you've originally chosen. You also might find that your plan A is too hard to break into, that it is one of those fields where it involves a lot of luck. Perhaps it's really competitive to get into. Perhaps there are many graduates for every job available. This is something that I've been exploring. I've been exploring law school with a number of students this fall, and this is something that we have uncovered, is that there are many more law school graduates every year than there are necessarily openings for attorneys. And this is probably one reason a lot of attorneys just go into private practice, because you can hang a sign pretty much outside of your house and go into business for yourself and start a law practice. I mean, if you jump through the appropriate hoops, you can do that. As a person working, you might also find the economy or job market, if it would make a sudden change and your plan A is no longer possible or viable. And of course, we've seen some of that this year. I mean, certain industries are struggling more than others. From what I've read, hospitality, tourism, they've been affected disproportionately compared with other industries during the pandemic. But regardless of whether, if there were a repeat or something in the future, regardless of what would happen, it goes to show that A, some industries can be more disproportionately affected than others, and B, it can happen darn near overnight. So it's always good having some kind of a plan B. And furthermore, it helps to have a plan B just to increase your likelihood of finding something. You can also cover more ground with a plan B. And this is why I know a number of students who've met with me could attest to this. I'm very big on either choosing and in some cases, a dual major, but I don't know that most people have to go that far even. I'm very big on choosing one or two, or in some cases even three minors. Minors in everything from psychology, communication, business. These are all excellent options if you want to expand a little bit out from what your typical undergrad major has, and it can make you more competitive, I think, in the short term and in the long term. So I've been talking to you for a bit about why you should have a plan B. Like I said, there will be situations both as a student and at various points in your career you might be happy that you did that. Okay, so then if it's so great, how do I go about it? And it's really hard to give a one-size-fits-all answer here. But some general tips I have for you include, number one, don't go it alone. The Office of Career Education can definitely help you with that. Sit down and talk with me or one of my fantastic colleagues. We'd love to sit down and talk to you about that in greater detail. Of course, you can talk to faculty, professionals in your field, and other people, just whoever they might be, whoever you can locate, and they can also give you some valuable insight on that. So don't feel like you have to do this alone. Don't feel like you're totally by yourself in the planning process. Quite the contrary. You should use as many people as you can locate in your network. You should use every resource at your fingertips. You also want to consider your needs, your wants, and your interests. So do any of them work nicely together? If you have multiple interests, how can you put them together into a career? A student I've been working with this semester has expressed interest in business and also helping. And actually, I've had a number of students do this. So for instance, I've told these students that think about organizations out there, whether it's nonprofits or maybe state agencies or any number of things that exist to help people. They all need leaders, don't they? They all need managers. There might be ways to kind of pull those together. You also want to consider the overall marketability of your plan A and consider if a plan B can help with that. So, and again, this is where I talk about things like business, psychology, communications. They can be great as minors. So, for instance, if you have a degree in art or something like that, or maybe, of course, I never put down any degree. I think every degree we offer here is a great one. That being said, through the eyes of an employer, sometimes you might have to think about, how do I present this degree? And there are certainly ways to do that. And it also factors in things like previous experience that you have. But also, if you have whatever your degree might be, you can fill in the blank. If you're hoping to, for instance, get a job in business, if you can show that you have a minor in management or something like that, you can actually show coursework on a resume, and that can help you cover more territory. So the world of work is messy and unpredictable, so the more plans that you have, the better. The more situations you find yourself prepared for, the better. The more adaptable you are, you guessed it, the better. So, of course, like I said previously, consider meeting with Career Education if you want to discuss a Plan B further. Other than the winter break closure, we will be here in between terms, and we would love to take some time to talk to you. So obviously when we're shut down for winter break, we're not around, but prior to classes starting back up at the end of January, we are here. So if you've got a little bit of, if it's post-Christmas and you find yourself a couple weeks trying to figure out what to do before returning to campus, we do offer virtual appointments. So definitely reach out to us if that's something that might interest you. So I also want to thank you again for joining us on OverHERD at Career Education. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, and I hope you'll join us back here next time.